Okay, welcome back. This is going to be JIT 4, Absolute Value Part 2. I'm breaking this up so that it's a little quicker, a little easier to see at any one time, not quite so long. So, I have an example. It's going to be a 2x plus 4 is equal to 14, and that 2x plus 4 is inside our absolute value bars. So I know that there's going to be two solutions, right? So I'm going to write this out. I'm going to have a 2x plus 4 equals a negative 14, and we have a 2x plus 4 equals positive 14, or just 14. So here we're going to go ahead. I'm going to work through the problem, and hopefully it will make sense to a lot of folks. If you still have questions, feel free to contact me or take a look at the video again to figure out what's going on. Okay, so here I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. So now I'm left with a 2x equals negative 18. And here when I subtract my 4 from both sides, I'm left with a 2x is going to equal positive 10. Now I'm going to divide both of those by 2, and I like being really specific instead of damaging the line above. I like writing it out, so it's minus 18 over 2. Here I'm going to have 2x over 2 equals 10 over 2. And again, so this is going to give us x is going to equal negative 9, and x is going to equal 5. So our solution is both negative 9 and positive 5. And that's a 9. Now I'll have to erase that, clean it up a little bit. All right, so going back here, I've got negative 9. Whoops. Negative 9. I think that's a little better. Anyway, so that's the first part of that. Looking at this example 3, our first intuition might be to say, oh, that's going to be a 0, and so there's only one solution. You need to be really careful about that. Our intuition is correct insofar as we will wind up with a 0 as a solution, but that is not correct that there's only one solution. So let's go ahead and work it out. In this case, I'm going to have a plus a negative 3, and that's going to equal negative 3, and I'm going to have a plus a negative 3 equals 3. All right, so in order to do this, I'm going to have to eliminate this negative 3. I have to get rid of that, so I'm going to add 3 to both sides of my equality sign. So I'm left with an a is going to equal 0, or I'm going to add 3 to both sides here. I'm going to have a equals 6. So again, like I said, our intuition was correct insofar as we could get to a 0, but we weren't correct that there would only be one solution. Keeping going here, I'm going to go with example 4, and this one's going to be a little trickier. I'm going to have the opposite of the absolute value of 6 plus 7, x plus 6, I should say, is going to equal negative 7. Now, at first glance, people might say, okay, well, that's a negative number. I don't need to have that. It's not going to work. If it was only a negative and there was nothing else happening on this side, you only had the absolute value sign, I would say, yes, you're correct. That's not possible, and you wouldn't have to pursue this any further. However, we have here an absolute value we're looking for the opposite of it. So we have to multiply or divide through by a negative 1 in order to clear that off. So when I go ahead and do that, when I multiply the negative absolute value of x plus 6 by negative 1, I wind up with x plus 6. I think I said negative 1. I meant negative 7. So this is going to wind up being negative 7 times 1 is going to be a 7. All right, and so now I can go ahead and split that out into two pieces. So I've got x plus 6 equals negative 7 and x plus 6 equals positive 7. All right, so we had to clear that off. So clear the negative. And we'll see that there's other things we may need to clear things off in order to determine whether or not we have a positive or a negative, whether we can move forward. All right, so in this case, I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. And I'm going to do that in both equations. So now I've got x is going to equal negative 13, and x is going to equal 1. So again, our intuition would have said, okay, that's going to give us a 1. So there's our 1, but it is not the only answer. So we need to be super careful not to just assume that we have our solutions just by our intuition.